Shalom Ubracha. We are now holding Mesechta Hataamim perek Beis Halacha Hey. We're talking about the Orot that are Yotzi Mipeda Adam Kadmon, and this is the building of the sphere of Keser da Adam Kadmon, and we're talking about how the spheres came out from the Peh, Malchus in the beginning, and then Zer Anpin, and then Bina, Chachma, and then Keser. And we explained that when you build a partzuf, you build the partzuf from the bottom up. Unlike Hamshachas Ha'or is Milamayla Lamata. Binyan HaPartzuf is Milamata Lamayla, from the bottom parts up towards the highest dargos. And we explained that each level which came out of the Peh of Adam Kadmon increased the Koach HaNeshama of all of the spheres that it's shining to. So for example, when Malchus comes out, Malchus has Nefesh. When Zer Anpin comes out, Zer Anpin is Meir to Malchus, and now Malchus has Nefesh and Ruach. And then when Bina comes out, so Bina is Meir as well, so therefore Malchus has Nefesh, Ruach, and Neshama. Chachma comes out, that would give Malchus Nefesh, Ruach, Neshama, Chaya, and then when Keser comes out, there's a giving to Malchus Nefesh, Ruach, Neshama, Chaya, and Yechida. And the same with the other dargos as well. But obviously Zer Anpin only has Nefesh, Ruach, Neshama, Chaya. And Bina only has Nefesh, Ruach, Neshama. And Chachma would have only Nefesh and Ruach. So Keser would only have Nefesh. And that's what we're saying here. So as we continue and go on, we're going to describe how each of the dargos increased their levels of Neshama. So let's start from Halacha Hey. So let's start from Mishnah Hey. In Malchus it's Meir all the 5 dargos of Neshama. Nefesh, Ruach, Neshama, Chaya, Yechida. Ubezeir Arba. And with Zer Anpin has 4 dargos of Neshamas, which is Nefesh, Ruach, Neshama, Chaya. Ube'ema Sholosh. And Bina, Ima has in it 3 dargos of Neshama, which is Nefesh, Ruach, and Neshama. Ube'arba Shnayim. Chachma has only 2 dargos of Neshama. It has only Nefesh and Ruach. Ube'arich Echad. And Arich has 1 darga of Neshama, which is Nefesh. Since Keser came out last, it only has its Or, because no other Oros are shining onto the darga of Keser. So that's what we're saying here. Ba'arich echad. V'kulam heime or panimi. And all of these lights are considered or panimi. Meaning, don't make a mistake and think that the Chaya and Yechida that we're talking about are be'emes makifim, which is mashma in all other places. Usually when we talk about Chaya and Yechida, these are Oros HaMakifim. But over here, we need you to know that all these Oros are really be'emes Oros panimim. So lefichach ato zon. Therefore now Zer Anpin and Nukva hayu yecholim la'amid panim bepanim. Zer Anpin and Nukva can now stand panim bepanim. Why can Zer Anpin and Nukva stand panim bepanim? Because the only way there can be a relationship, which is what we call panim bepanim in Kabbalah, is when there's all the dargos of Meichen. When we have all of the dargos of Meichen, which is Keser, Chachma, and Bina, that makes it so that the darga that we're dealing with can stand panim bepanim with its mate. And in our case, Zer Anpin and Nukva. Zer Anpin and Nukva have a relationship. Usually, Zer Anpin and Nukva are back to back. What brings them panim bepanim? When there is relationship, when there is Havana and Hasaga, when there's Keser, Chachma, and Bina, Kachbad, or Chabad, that through having Chabad, having Meichen, that makes it so that Zer Anpin and Nukva can turn around and face panim bepanim. And that is the way it is by zivugim. In order for there to be a zivug, there has to be mochin. Mashein kein Abba v'Ima. However, unlike Abba v'Ima, at this point in Akudim, Bina only has Nefesh, Ruach, and Neshama, whereas Chachma only has Nefesh and Ruach. So neither of them have dargos of Mochin. Neither of them have Chabad. And because Abba and Ima are Chaser Chabad, Abba and Ima cannot look panim bepanim. Therefore, Abba and Ima are achor ba'achor. So that's what he's saying here. Since they're lacking mochin, they could only stand back to back at this darga. Afterwards, in the side of Hey of Hashem's name. As you see here, we're going in a pattern. First we talked about Espashtus, which is the inyan of Yud, which is CHASIDIM. Then we're going to speak now about Gevuris, which is Hey, which is Bina, which is the Hey Rishayna, and that's Gevuris, which is Histalkos. So that's what he's saying here. Let's read it again. Afterwards, with the side of the Hey of Hashem's name, the Or went back up to the Peh of Adam Kadmain right away. It went within the mouth of Adam Kadmain, L'Sharshai, and Ukish Nastalik, Mechelek Habroi L'Malchus. And then when the Or leaves the Chelek, which is connected to Malchus, these Ores are having a chain reaction. When the highest Or, which is Keser, enters into its Makar, so automatically Malchus loses its Or. And then when Chachma is going to go into its Makar, so then Yesod is going to lose its Or. These Ores are having like a chain reaction. They're connected to each other. And so because of this, when the Ores are going in the Peh of Adam Kadmain, one by one, it's removing Ores from Malchus, from Yesod, and from Zer Anpin. So that's what he's saying here. When the Or from Keser goes in, and thereby the Or leaves the Chelek which is fitting for Malchus, since, as we mentioned, the Chelek of Keser goes back to its source, so then, then the darker part of the Or, which is the remanents of the Or, the Or already left the Kli of Malchus. The Or already left the Kli of Malchus, and what you have left is the Chelek HaChashuch, the darker part which congealed a little bit, the remanents of the Or which congealed. And this is Shezehu Bechinas HaKli. That's the Kli of the Sphira. That's the Kli. The remanents of these Ores that are left in Olam Akudim, they become the Kli. Hafach HaChelek HaChoshuch, the darker part, which is the remanents of the Or, turned around. Shezehu Bechinas HaKli, meaning we're talking about the Kli, which is left over, right? Because the Kli is formed from the Rishimu of light. So it turns around. It turns its back to face the lower part of the Or, which is ascending. So as the Or is ascending, so the Kli does not want to face the light, so the Kli turns around and its back is facing the lower part of the Or, which is going up. So again, when the Or leaves the Kli of Malchus, what happens is the Or goes up. And then the Kli does not want to face the Or, so the Kli also turns around. So the back of the Kli is now facing the lower darga of light that is going back towards the Peh of Adam Kadmain. Its back is turned to the Achor of the Or, until the Or leaves. Until the Or leaves from the Chelek of Yesod, from the remanents of the Kli of Yesod, it's almost what? Through the hiding of what? It's almost a Chachma b'mkoirei, through Chachma going back into its source. The Kli of Malchus only turns around when the Or is distant enough, and at that point it will turn back around again. But I want you to know that really, in truth, as we're going to see soon, Malchus did not leave a Rishimu. Because the only reason why a Or would leave a Rishimu is if there's something to give to a lower Darga. Meaning if there's a Darga that has to give to a lower Darga, so it leaves a Rishimu. It leaves a little bit of light for the lower levels. But Malchus is the lowest Darga of Akudim. So Malchus did not leave a Rishimu. So how does the Kli of Malchus form? And the answer to this is by the Betisha that we spoke about earlier, the friction of Orot and kelim, the friction of Orot and kelim. So when the Or, which is Shaykh to Malchus, starts to rub against the Kli of Yesod, what happens is nitzutzos come out, sparks fall out. And these nitzutzos fall in the place of the Kli of Malchus. And that is what Malchus leaves in its place. Malchus does not leave a Rishimo. Malchus leaves nitzutzos in its place. And the Baal MISHNAS CHASIDIM is going to mention that Malchus does not leave a Rishimu. And later after that, he's going to explain why Take does Malchus have any sort of remanents left when the Or leaves. And like we said, it has to do with the Betisha, the friction, which is caused from the Kli of Yesod with the Or of Malchus. So, until the light of Malchus leaves the chelik of Yesod, the chelik of the Kli of Yesod, the Kli of Yesod which is left through the Rishimu, since Chachma is the Or of Chachma is already going back within the Peh of Adam Kadmon, and that's Bimkeira in its place. And as we explained, the Oros are connected like a chain. So when one goes up, it drags up the lower dargas. So and since the Or of Malchus is already distant enough past Yesod, the Kli of Malchus will now face back towards the light that is going up. That's what we're saying here. So the Kli of Malchus, which is made through the friction, turns its face back towards the Or, which is going up. So it would be that the face of Malchus is Ba'achorei ha'elyon. The face of Malchus is facing the lower darga of the Or of Malchus. So yeah, so Malchus turns around and faces the Or which is going up. And not only Malchus does this, as we explained, that when the Or leaves in the beginning to the next sphera up, the Kli turns away. It doesn't want to see it. It doesn't want to see it. Why? Because it's embarrassed. It's embarrassed to look at the Or. And then what happens is the Or leaves a higher darga, and then it's able to look again. The Or leaves a higher darga, and it's able to look again. That's what happens by all of the spheroids. And so, that's what all of these spheroids did. Until the kelim all turn around, and the face of the lower darga is facing the Or, which is going up. The lower darga of the Or, which is going upwards back to the Peh of Adam Kadmon. That's called Pnei HaTachton Ba'achorei ha'elyon. Chutz min HaKeser, and this is all except for the sphere of Keser. Shayapanav l'pnei HaChachma, because by Keser, Chutz min HaKeser, except by Keser. Everything we mention here is except for Keser. Because Shayapanav l'pnei HaChachma, because when the Or of Keser goes up to the Peh of Adam Kadmon, when the Or of Keser goes up to the Peh of Adam Kadmon, it was like this. Shayapanav l'pnei Chachma, its face is facing Chachma, meaning it does not want to look at its light that went right up into the Peh of Adam Kadmon. Chutz min HaKeser. Everything we said is all shaykh to all the spheres except for Keser. Because by Keser, what happens is the Or goes back within the Peh of Adam Kadmon, and the Or is right there. So because of that, the Kli HaKeser does not want to look at the Peh of Adam Kadmon. So the Kli HaKeser turns down and faces downwards. And it doesn't turn back upwards. It doesn't turn back upwards because the Or is there. So that's what he's going to say now. Chutz min HaKeser, except from the Keser. Shayapanav l'pnei HaChachma, its face is turned toward the Kli HaChachma, v'achorav l'sharsha, and its back is always to its shoresh. Its back is to its shoresh. Because after all, once the Or HaKeser goes back into the Peh of Adam Kadmon, that's where it goes. That's it. And it doesn't become rachik. It doesn't come far from the Rishimu of Keser. So now we're holding Mishnah Zayin. And and from the Or, which was given to them at first, which is the idea of Hataamim, which is the idea of Ispashtus, which is the idea of Rachamim, right? Hinichu Rosham. So that Or, like we mentioned above, it left a Rosham in its place. That Or leaves a Rosham, right? Shusaid Hatagin. It later represents, when it leaves the Rosham, it represents the Darga of Tagin. You have Tamim, Nukudos, Tagin, and Oisios. Tamim, Nukudos, Tagin, and Oisios, right? Tamim is Yud, Nukudos is Hey, Tagin is Vav, and Oisios, which is the most Gashmi, is the bottom Hey. So these are all levels of Hispashtus and Histalkus, outpouring and withdrawing. The Yud is an outpouring, the Hey is a withdrawing, it's a Histalkus, it's a Nukudos and Din, right? The Vav is Tagin, which is Rachamim again, an outpouring. And then the bottom Hey is a withdrawing, which is the union of Din, right? And so that's what he's saying here. We explained that the Or that came to them first, which was Tamim and Rachamim. So what happened? It leaves a Rosham. That's what we spoke about earlier. And the Rosham is also Rachamim, right? Shuhu Seid Tagin. That's the Seid of Tagin. That's the Vav of Hashem's name. Connected the Darga of Vav of Hashem's name. So that corresponds to the Vav of Hashem's name, right? And then Bimkoimam Lahoyer Lamashatachtehem. And the reason why it leaves the Rishimu, as we explained before, is to give light to a lower Darga. Except for the Malchus, which does not leave a Rosham. And why? Why doesn't Malchus leave a Rosham? And the answer is because Malchus is the lowest Darga in Olam Akudim. And if there's nothing beneath it, there's nothing to leave a Rosham to. If there's nothing beneath it, there's nothing to leave a Rosham to. And that's what he's saying. That it doesn't leave a Rosham because Malchus is the lowest Darga in Akudim. And how did it leave some semblance of a Kli? We mentioned before, it's because of the Betisha, the friction between the Ora Malchus and the Kli Yesod. So now, Mishnah Ches. All the Oros, when they went in the Pavadam Kadmain, they took away light from lower Dargos. So that's what he's saying. It would take away lights from the lower Dargos. Like the Ora Kesser goes into the Pavadam Kadmain, the Ora Malchus leaves and goes to Yesod. The Ora Chachma goes into the Pavadam Kadmain, the Ora Yesod leaves and goes to the Darga of Hoid, or the other Dargas of Zer Anpin, and eventually Bina. Basically, it's like a chain reaction, as we explained before. And therefore, Kol Malas HaNeshamas, all of the Malas of Neshamas that each individual Sphira had, all the Malas of Neshamas that each individual Sphira had, Shenesoisif Bahem, which is added to them. Now, when these Chalakim are going back into the Pavadam Kadmain, these Chalakim which increased in each Sphira a higher Darga of Neshama, so that is also taken away. And therefore, all the levels that were increasing neshama within each individual level, meaning that gave Malchus Naran Chai, because, for example, Malchus was Makabel from Zer Anpin, from Bina, from Chachma, from Keser, and etc. Like we mentioned above, that every Darga is receiving an extra Darga of Nefesh Ruach Neshama Chai Yechida by the higher Darga is coming down. So those are the Neshamas. Those are the Malas of the Neshamas. So he says over here, Kol Malas HaNeshama Shesesevem B'tzis HaChelako HaNechasata Avheim Hoyunim Noim Mehem Al Kol Eselikanes. They were also held back when these Oros are going in the Pavadam Kadmain. As these Oros are all going in the Pavadam Kadmain, they're taking away the levels of the Neshamas that they brought for their representative levels, right? So, for example, when Keser goes into the Pavadam Kadmain, what does Malchus lose? Malchus loses Yechida, right? When Chachma goes into the Peh of Adam Kadmon, what does Malchus lose? Malchus loses the Or of Chaya. And so it is with each individual Sphira, it's the same thing as well. And Va'az. And then, when all of the Ores go back into to the Peh of Adam Kadmon, when all of the Ores go back within the Peh of Adam Kadmon, and they're ready to go back down, then the Ores are Meir again. They were rejuvenated. These Ores were rejuvenated. They got rejuvenated when they got within the Peh of Adam Kadmon. And then they give light again. And then the milos that were held back go back to their places. Not only that, when they all go back to their dargos, they also increase one higher darga from what they had before. So let's explain this last piece here before we go on. Basically, as the Ores are going back to the Peh of Adam Kadmon, Keser goes up, and then since Keser goes up, the Or Chachma goes up to the Kliya Keser, and the Or of Bina goes up to the Kliya Chachma, and the Or of Zer Anpin goes up to the Kli of Bina, and then the Or of Malchus goes up to Zer Anpin. And this goes on, and when this happens, it makes it so that the Ores are able to be makabel a higher level of light. And so therefore, for example, when the Or of Keser goes into the Peh of Adam Kadmon, the Or of Chachma goes up and ascends and reaches the Kliya Keser. So now what happens is that the Or of Chachma now has Nefesh, Ruach, and Neshama. Before it only had Nefesh and Ruach. But because the Or Chachma goes up to the Kliya Keser, so the Or Chachma now has Nefesh, Ruach, and Neshama. The Or of Bina, on the other hand, goes up to the Kliya Chachma. And since the Or of Bina goes up to the Kliya Chachma, the Or of Bina now has, instead of Nefesh, Ruach, and Neshama, it has Nefesh, Ruach, Neshama, Chaya. The same thing happens to Zer Anpin. Zer Anpin goes up to where? The Kliya Bina. And since Zer Anpin goes now up to the Kliya Bina, Zer Anpin is makabel a higher darga of Or. Zer Anpin before had Nefesh, Ruach, Neshama, Chaya, and now it will have Nefesh, Ruach, Neshama, Chaya, and Yechida. Okay? And then you have the Or Malchus. The Or Malchus goes up as well. The Or Malchus goes up to where? The kelim of Zer Anpin. And because it goes to the kelim of Zer Anpin, Malchus now has Nefesh, Ruach, Neshama, Chaya, Yechida, and it also has a Or Makif. A Or Makif. The first Or Makif. Makif Achaya. Makif Achaya. Makif Achaya. These are the Makifim that we didn't speak about yet. Alright? The Naran Chai was the Uris Apnimim, like we mentioned before. So Malchus is the first one that gets Makif Achaya, right, which is the lower darga of Makif. And then when the Or Chachma goes into the Peh of Adam Kadmon, what happens? The same thing. The same thing. Now, since the Or Chachma goes into the Peh of Adam Kadmon, right, the Or Bina goes up to the Kli HaChachma. And so Bina has Nefesh, Ruach, Neshama, Chaya, and Yechida. Bina has all the dargos of Naran Chai. And then Zer Anpin has Nefesh, Ruach, Neshama, Chaya, Yechida, and a Makif. Zer Anpin also has a Makif now. It has a Makif Chaya. A Makif Chaya as well. Since now the Or Chachma went in, even Zer Anpin is able to be Makabel, one of the Makifim. And the Or of Malchus goes to the Kliya Bina. And since the Or of Malchus goes to the Kliya Bina, so what does Malchus get now? Malchus gets its second darga of Makifim. Malchus gets the second darga of Makifim. And this is the Makif of Yechida. The Makif of Yechida. That being the case, so Malchus has Naran Chai and Makif Chaya and Makif Yechida. Zer Anpin has Naran Chai and Makif Chaya. So then Bina goes within the Peh Avodim Kadmon, and Zer Anpin now reaches the Kliya Keser. Since Zer Anpin reaches the Kliya Keser, Zer Anpin now has Makif Yechida, all of the Makifim, all the two Makifim which are possible for it to get, which is Makif Chaya and Makif Yechida. And Malchus is not Mekabel anything new. Malchus is not Mekabel anything new. Why? Because Malchus already has both of the Makifim. It already has Naran Chai, and you can't get more at this level. You can't get more at this level than these two Makifim. So the second to the last Aliyah does nothing for Malchus. The second to the last Aliyah does nothing for Malchus. In other words, when Bina goes within the Peh Avodim Kadmon, Yechida gets a higher light. Malchus does not get any higher light, because Malchus has all the possible dargos. And then obviously, once Zer Anpin goes within the Peh Avodim Kadmon, so then the darga of Malchus reaches the Kliya Keser. And when Malchus reaches the darga of the Kliya Keser, again, Malchus does not increase in any light, because Malchus already has all of the dargos which it's possible for it to get. And that's why we're saying here in the MISHNAS CHASIDIM that chutz min Malchus, except for Malchus, that the two last aliyahs do not increase anything in Malchus. So let's go back to what we said before the MISHNAS HaChasidim. He said, also the milas that were held back, they're returned to each of the respective levels. The milas of the neshama, they go back. And not only that, it's increased to all of the milos one level, as these dargos go up level by level within the Peh Avodim Kadmon. When Keser goes to the Peh Avodim Kadmon, all of the dargos go up one level. When Chachma goes to the Peh Avodim Kadmon, all the dargos go up another level. And then when Bina goes up to the Peh Avodim Kadmon, the dargos go up another level, right? And as they all increase, and Zer Anpin goes up to the Peh Avodim Kadmon, right? As they all increase a darga, all of them, always increasing a darga level by level. That's what he's saying here. They all increase one mila, chutz min Malchus, except for Malchus. The last two aliyahs, in other words, when Bina goes within the Peh Avodim Kadmon, and when Zer Anpin goes within the Peh Avodim Kadmon, they do not increase anything for Malchus, because Malchus already has all of the dargos that it needs. So therefore, when Bina and Zer Anpin return to the Peh Avodim Kadmon, it doesn't increase any higher levels for Malchus. Malchus already has Naran Chai and Makif Chaya and Makif Yechida. And Lefichach, therefore, Zacha Abel Neshama, so Chachma has Nefesh Ruach Neshama. Ve'ima Gam Yechida, Bina has Nefesh Ruach Neshama Chaya Yechida. Me or Panimi, but that's from the Or Panimi, of course, not from the Makifim, the special Makifim we were talking about. Zer Anpin and Nukva were Zoicha for the two big Makifim, the Makifim HaMe'ulim, which are Makif Chaya and Makif Yechida. And why is it that at this Dargo you only get two Makifim? You only get Makif Chaya and Yechida, but not Nefesh Ruach Neshama. So you only get two makifim. Because from the Peh of Adam Kadmon and downwards, until the end of all of the Olamais, Kulam, all of them, the Or is decreased. There's a miut of Or from the Peh of Adam Kadmon and downwards. it's impossible to attain all the 5 dargos of makifim. Which was like it was higher than the darga of the peh. Above the darga of the peh, you saw that there are makifim and there are pnimim, right? And all the dargas were there. But then when you get to the peh of the kadmon, you only get 2 makifim. You only get 2 makifim. So, unlike unlike how it was above the peh of the kadmon, bilvad, except for these 2 makifim. These 2 makifim. By the dargas of the ozen and the chotem, you have yud pnimim and yud makifim, right? Which means that you had all the makifim which were necessary, related to the dargas of nefesh ruach neshama chaya yechida, mitzad pnimi, and nefesh ruach neshama chaya yechida mitzad the makifim, but not from the peh of Adam Kadmon and downwards. In the Biurim of Rabbi Yehuda Petaya, it explains that the darga of achaf, ozen, chotem, and peh is keneged the neshamas, meaning neshama chaya and yechida, whereas the darga from the peh and below is keneged zun, is keneged zer anpin and nukva, or the dargas of ruach and nefesh. The dargas of ruach and nefesh. From the peh ulamata is keneged the dargas of ruach and nefesh. But from the peh and above, which is achaf, that's keneged neshama chaya yechida. And because of this, from the peh and above, you could be zoicha for all the bechinos of the makifim. But from the peh and downwards, there's only 2 dargas there, which is neshama and ruach. And because of that, you only get 2 makifim and not the rest of the makifim.